apologies. Anybody likely to leave early? No, that's good. Any conflicts of interest? No conflicts of interest, right.
Okay.
I would move that we receive the current register of interest. All those in favour, either raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Right.
Anyone against? That's carried. Right, the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have somebody move that those be accepted?
I'll move it.
Thanks, John. Seconder? Thanks, Andrew. Any discussion around those? Right, I move that those be accepted. All those in favour, hand up or aye.
Right.
Anyone against? That's carried. Any matters arising from those minutes? Nope. We have no deputations or presentations from the community. Any adjourned business? I don't believe there is any. Right, we've got a pretty short agenda. So we've got the approval of the Woodend-Sefton Community Board plan for 2020-22. I did make some updates to what's in front of you, but it didn't quite make the agenda, unfortunately, but that's quite normal because I was late doing it. I added in redevelopment of the Woodend Beach playground, developing that Waikuku Beach spatial plan, and also starting to get ready for the Woodend Pegasus area strategy, which should kick off in the next financial year. Also correcting Philip's spelling of your surname underneath the photo.
Shona,
Yeah.
could you remove the Sefton Domain Advisory Group and the Sefton Township River and Drainage Ratepayers direct for me, because I never get a notification of any meetings or anything.
So Sandra, you went to a meeting of the River and Drainage group, did you? The Sefton one?
Sefton Ashley rating.
So it's different.
Annual rating committee, yeah.
Oh, the annual rating committee. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not really relevant to me now.
Because there's three of them.
Yeah.
There's 3 rating area meetings, annual meetings. They're all run by ECAN. Sefton Town, Sefton Ashley, and Ashley
River. Yeah.
John's, which one's John?
It's down here as the Sefton Township River and Drainage Ratepayer District.
That's the Sefton Town. That's a separate one, different one than I went to.
Okay.
But
I'd like that one removed.
Okay.
And the Sefton Domain Advisory Board, I have no contact with him whatsoever.
I've noted that and I'll remove them.
Thanks, Kay. Andrew.
Just two things. One, which I'm sure you've picked up on, but I noticed that in the document that we were presented with, there's a number of words that run together. So, and I presume that's just, it's odd. I presume that'll get picked up though, just the way the words are laid out in the paragraphs, in the columns.
Okay, I'll let you answer that one.
Yes, this is a document that was in publishing software, and when we converted across to Word, it does that sometimes, but when we go back, it should sort itself out.
Very good. Okay, cool. No, okay. The other thing, the more significant thing, and it's a question, was that I was thinking about the flooding issues that were going on here at Waikuku Beach, and I don't know if they in themselves warrant a mention as something we've focused on, because there has been quite some considerable work going to it, but it's going to be a theme that comes up a number of times around this area going forward, sea level rise and flooding and so forth. So should we have it as a bullet point in some form or other in here?
Yeah, we also have the same issue now with Sandra sent an email out. I don't know how many have seen it around flooding issues around Sefton.
Sefton, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
So
I can put both those in.
Yeah. It's
I
probably a
think
good
that
thing.
in flooding issues involving Waikuku and Sefton areas are a concern of the boards.
And put Woodend Beach as well too.
Shona, on page 22, under infrastructure, the second bullet point refers to working with staff to improve drainage in flood-prone areas.
So we could put including
in
that one. And Woodend Beach is really in there as well. I know some Pegasus residents are going to raise about the water in some of the swales with the last rain with Gerard, and he's coming to the Pegasus Cup next month, and they're going to raise it with that. But there was a little bit of flooding onto the road, but mainly the swales did what they were meant to do. So that was good. Anything else in there? Anybody?
Simon wants to talk.
Sorry, Simon.
Madam Chair, sorry, just in relation to two things. One, John's comments about his appointments. My recollection was that, and I'm not trying to give you an argument, John, but you were appointed by the board to these forums. Before we remove that, can we just check, please, Kay, that actually those forums are continuing? I mean, one of them is an Ecan rating district, so I doubt whether that's not has been curtailed at this point. I guess the question, John, is you're not getting any notifications, but Kay, could you just check that out, please? Because it is a board resolution to appoint John to those forums. So before we take any action, I think we should just check it out, please, if you would.
I have checked on the Sefton reserves one, and they are inactive at the moment.
Okay, got it. All right. It could be, I'm being picky, but it could be just in brackets against the name, brackets inactive at present.
Right, can do that.
I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that.
Because it may actually pick up again with the Sefton public hall issue around that one and with the pavilion. So it may actually pick up again at that point.
Thanks for entertaining my bureaucratic mind.
We love your bureaucratic mind, Simon.
On the flooding issue, clearly Sandra has circulated an email with additional information, but I think it's making under infrastructure, making drainage and flooding issues in the district a focus for 2022, and because there are a range of them, and certainly, and I know that's going to get discussed, Sandra, but we would really want to get Gerard along to the board to brief the board, and I just briefly highlight that there's a report going to the Utilities and Roading Committee on the 22nd of March, which is following up on the thick end of 500 odd service requests out of the May flood event, which brings some to the fore, but not everything, and it isn't a substitute for getting Gerard along. I had a conversation with him about that earlier in the day, but Sandra, I don't want to foreclose on any points that you would want to make. Thank you.
Any other issues, or are we happy to let me just make any minor changes after those ones?
Really, I think it's a good document.
Okay, would you like to move that then, John?
I'll move that.
Thank you, John. Do I have a seconder for that? Thanks, Andrew. Right, any other discussion around that? Right, I'll put that to the vote that we approve the plan with the chairperson approving the final version if any further corrections are required. So all those in favour say aye or raise your hand. Those against? That's carried. Thanks for that. We haven't had any correspondence in. My chairperson's report is there. Any questions around that?
Andrea wants to ask something.
Thanks, Andrea. Are you chatting it? Where are you? Where's chat?
I think you're on mute, Andrea.
Oh, no,
No,
she's
just raising. Oh, you're just raising your hand for the vote. Thanks for that, Andrea.
Simon.
Right.
Simon wants something.
Simon?
Madam Chair, I noted that you mentioned in your report the draft annual plan by ECAN. I'm aware that there's been a bit of discussion between the mayor and the chairs of the community boards in relation to a common submission. That doesn't preclude boards from making their own, but I just wanted to get a sense of, because I'm the pen holder for getting a draft together, whether that's something the board might want to consider. Where I'm at is there's a, you'll recall that Claire Mackay and Grant Edge came to the All Boards meeting a week or so back. They're coming out briefing the council tomorrow. Off the back of that, I was going to put together basically some slides which try and just summarize what a position might be in relation to the draft, circulated around the board chairs and the mayor in the first instance before it then gets socialized with the full council, and look, it may get circulated anyway. But whether that's so, we're at the 15th or 14th of March. That would be out and for review by about the 21st or so, and then I've got to get a report together for an agenda that closes at the back end of next week. That goes to, sorry folks, that goes to the 5th of April council meeting, and I'll get a small extension of a couple of days on the due date for receipt of that submission. So that's my sort of trajectory in getting that together. So that gives you the thick end of a week to kind of express any views. Well, it might not be a full week, but at least several days as to whether the board would want to be party to that submission. I'm inferring a bit there, Shona, as to how you might want to handle that, but happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, I have put some questions into ECAN through Tia, but I was talking to her before and she's still waiting on a reply from them, even though they had promised to have it back on Friday, last Friday. So we are missing a response to some questions.
Okay. I'll make a note to ensure that that's raised tomorrow afternoon if we haven't heard by 3 o'clock, which is when the council briefing equivalent to the All Boards briefing is.
Yeah, that would be good, because Claire made that undertaking that if the questions were put in by a certain time, the answers would be back by the Friday. So yeah.
Okay, I'll sort that. Thank you.
Right. So my chair's report is there. So I'd like to move that report is received. Do I have a seconder for that? Thanks, Philip. Any other discussion? Put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Right, we've got our matters for information. Now, if there's anybody got any questions around those?
Mm.
Does someone to move that those be received?
I'll move it.
Thanks, John. Seconder. Thanks, Sandra. Any questions around that? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Right, members' information exchange. Philip, we've got your report here.
Thank you,
Anything you'd like to add?
Madam Chair. I'll just comment briefly on two things. I'm the Chair of Creative Communities, Waimakariri, and we're currently seeking applications for a round of funding in the art area. And it's art in the broadest sense of the word. So if you know of any budding artists or groups who have an activity that might qualify, we've got about 86,000, and I think we're going to have trouble getting rid of it, and we'd like to see it spent in the district. So if there are any qualifying things, COVID meant in our last round, we normally get about 30. We only had 6 apply, so we're able to carry that funding over. So we're looking forward to a good round. And I just added in, I don't know whether you get these or not, the building consents, which shows Pegasus had 147 in February. And I think that made Pegasus about the 4th highest. I suspect Ravenswood is under the Woodend heading, 214 consents, followed by Kaiapoi and Rangiora, and then I've noted Pegasus. So that's about all I've got to say. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for that. Yes, Ravenswood is included under Woodend for the building consents, and we do receive those, which is very interesting.
Right.
Any questions for Philip? Right, John, thank you for sending in yours as well. Anything you'd like to add to that?
No, nothing really.
Right, Andrew, have you got anything you'd like to?
Yeah, I guess just 2 things to note, and one of them's in your report as well, Shona, because you were there. We attended a meeting with various of the Green Space Council Green Space team to which was a step in the direction of advancing or getting this general overview plan of the Waikuku Beach area in place. And the objective there is to get a bit of a draft. There's been a number of requests from parties, of which we've seen 1 or 2, for example, the skate park and the beach volleyball. And if you remember, we decided that before we made a decision on any particular one of those requests and the wee bits of land they might want, it would be a very sensible thing to have an overview of what's available and Green Space's view on how these things might fit together. So Shona and I were involved in a continuing discussion there, and now that there's the new team member on board in Green Space, he was good, Martin, and I think one of his priorities is to take that forward to discuss with various of the people that have requested a bit of space and to come up with a bit of a plan. And if I recall rightly, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Shona, but I think the next tangible step, he will bring a draft to us as a tangible step. I don't think we set a specific date, but yeah. Okay, so that's just one thing. And the only other thing I wanted to just very briefly note again is that along the lines of the bullet point that you pointed out is already there, Philip, but around flooding and whatnot, there's a continuing discussion in my neck of the woods, as there is in other areas, about the good piece of work that council did after those big floods mid-year and the ongoing implications. And council has been active. I don't know if you recall, but they and Jared has said that he will come back to us with an update on it. But there was a meeting here in the Waikuku Beach Hall that ECAN and others were, no, ECAN didn't attend today, they were, but there's been various actions on the part of from that meeting, which included beefing up the stock bank, and council have been out checking the drains and surveying and such like. So I think the water team is at a point they've got some good knowledge now, and I understand that some decisions or suggestions are very close. Thank you. And if anyone's got any questions on those points?
That's fine. Andrea, given you can't talk, I don't know if you want to type anything out, if there is anything, and I'll go to Sandra next. Sandra, have you got anything you'd like to tell us about what you've been up to?
Sorry, I was waiting for Andrea. Oh, okay. Just that email I sent to everybody this afternoon. I should have updated you as well to, at that meeting, the residents put forward that can increase the rating area to include an unnamed stretch of stream that goes into Stony Creek, so that ECAN can actually maintain that. The rating area covers a section above the stream and a section below it, and the middle of it isn't included. I mean, it just indicates the hodgepodge that is around in this area. What I would like to, I think that I don't know what the ECAN process is to increase a rating area, and whether the council, whether the community board should actually be supporting residents who moved and seconded, and it was passed by the meeting, bearing in mind there was only about 5 or 6 people there. But I think that should be explained to the community board in a briefing about how as a board and potentially as a council we could help out the residents' wishes be fulfilled by ECAN, but I maintain that it needs a wider brief than just that I've outlined. The issues, they're not going to go away. As I said, one household was evacuated in the February floods. I think that the board should actually request an update or a briefing from Gerard and ECAN about what can be done in the light of climate change, and this is a flood prone area, yet the councils can, still ticking off development in there, which it all doesn't hang together well, and I think the board should be across it. That's about it, really, apart from joining Shona on the presentation from Templeton Group about development of Pegasus, which I don't know, is that shareable or is it hush-hush or whatever?
At the moment, I believe it's relatively hush-hush in terms of content, but I might add some information later.
Yep, okay.
I haven't had put it this way, I haven't had approval from Templeton Group to share. I have asked in the past, and I'm still waiting.
Yeah, okay. That's about me. Any questions? Welcome.
Andrew's got a question.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, in relation to your point, Sandra, an interesting one, just for the general interest as much as anything, but I think it has a wider inference. The council, you can see here in Waikuku Beach that council has been moving quite quickly in its interpretation of global warming and flooding risk, because the requirements for the construction of new houses has changed profoundly. So there is a house some hundreds of meters down the street from me that was built 2 years ago that is about, I want to suggest 300 mils, 400 mils above the ground. There are 2 new houses getting built, one only like 3 houses along from that one, and another one on the other side of the village. They are 1.4 meters above the ground. They're on piles 50 or 60 piles, 1.4 meters above the ground is where their floor level is at. So it's actually interesting, and that's entirely driven, as I understand it, by council requirements addressing that risk of flooding and global sea level rise. Yeah.
Oh, indeed. I mean, the question is, should people be building? I mean, the property that I mentioned here, it's a relocated house that has foundations that are 800 plus above the ground.
Yeah.
So yes, the floor levels are addressed, but I mean, when you still get your property with 700 mils of water all through it in a storm 7 times since you've been there in 3 years, should, even with the floor levels up there, so your house might be dry, but your solar power system and your garage and all your outbuildings and your stock are up to their necks in water. And that's happened several times. So when do you arguably say that this isn't land that should be built on, even though your house sticks up like a sore thumb, with water all around it? And arguably that exactly the same scenario could happen in Waikuku Beach, 1.4 meters. I mean, that means that it can be flooded to that. So you're marooned in your house up to that level. I mean, is this what, to my mind, is this what the council should be ticking off? No.
Simon.
So look, a couple of comments. I will endeavour to get some information again available by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon about changes to rating districts by ECAN. There will inevitably be formality around that process, requiring full consultation with all potentially affected ratepayers, but at least so there's some information brought to the table about the process. In terms of some of the issues that you raised, Sandra, they straddle both what the Waimakariri District Council's role and responsibilities and ability to insist are or aren't, and the role of Environment Canterbury. So there is, despite the fact that the resource management reform process is underway, there is a review of the regional policy statement underway as well, and it's the regional policy statement that enables development in certain locations. It's the Waimakariri District Council that is setting the floor levels of development within that remit that is enabled by the regional policy statement. Clearly, those things need to line up. Clearly, it also needs to line up with the Building Act and the ability for councils to insist. And it is still a very uncoordinated and problematic area. I'm getting into a bit of detail that will come in the briefing. I think I just want to highlight the comments that Andrew made in terms of our ability as a council to insist is still quite constrained. We are strongly advisory. The next ratchet up is some of the changes in the district plan that will give us a little bit more ability to insist. But we strike at one of the weak areas of alignment between national legislation, regional policy, and district planning policy. And there's plenty of room for improvement, I would readily admit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I acknowledge everything you're saying. It's just that given people who want to build or have bought in a flood-prone or hazard area, all the council's information is transparently available to them. And even given that, some people, well, most people actually
Still
choose to go ahead.
I know.
And in fact,
Yeah.
now, staff are dealing with people who are saying now, well, I don't want to live here anymore, buy me out.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's fraught, but I think it should be in front of the council. It should be front of this board, because in fact, as Andrew has said, Waikuku Beach, Woodend Beach and Sefton, hello, none of this issue is not going to magically evaporate with the waving of a wand, and we need to actually put it in front of everybody, and let's be across, have a briefing on exactly what's happening and what are the potential, if there are any, as you're suggesting. Perhaps it's incredibly difficult to have a solution, and to actually say hello, no, is a fraught decision. But let's have the information available and have a talk about it. That's where I'm coming from.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll just say something. You know, flooding is a difficult issue, and these last few events we had are very unpredictable. We got a stream that comes in off McIntosh's drain, which takes the overflow from Woodend. And this year, the reservoir behind the Boulder Dam, which feeds into our lake, the water was pouring in, and then it's actually up to the same level as the Boulder Dam. And my brother-in-law was walking across there, and he saw a lot of eels coming across out of McIntosh's drain into our lake. So, you know, it's very hard to predict, you know, an event like that, really. And I think it's something we're going to have to live with. It's climate change, you know. Whatever we think about it, is climate change is causing these problems.
Philip, you wanted to say something?
Yes, just going to say I agree with Sandra. In a regulatory sense, we have the foundation height level, but it should be quite obvious to anyone looking at that, why is it that high? But there seems to be a gap missing. I was concerned about purchasers who may, for instance, buy a property like that. And I discovered today at Zone 5 and 6, a person from the Ministry for the Environment spoke. They are bringing out new amendments to the Official Information and Meetings Act, whatever it's called, that governs limbs. So they're looking to standardise limbs throughout the whole country. And those amendments are coming in later this year. So nobody knew about it until this person from the Ministry for the Environment mentioned that. So there are things happening, but I agree with Sandra. And, you know, whether we retreat from the certain areas, I don't believe the district plan review provides for that either. Thank you.
And I'll just add one thing. I mean, what's going to happen to some of these people in Sefton is their insurance policy is going to be cancelled, because the person I'm particularly, you know, has come and dropped it on our lap, or my lap, and is twice in 6 months have had their solar system and their batteries flooded out, their car completely underwater twice in 6 months. Well, hello, insurance paid out on the first time, and now February, it's happened again. So how long do you think the insurance company is going to indulge this? And what's going to happen when they say no? Who's going to be yelling at the council if they're not already yelling at the council now? So I just say we need to have a really good discussion about this, and try and come to some solution or solutions. Not that any of it is going to be easy.
Andrew.
Just a final brief comment. Interesting discussion, and I mean, as a community board, we have limited powers in this. I think the issue, we have a role, in my view, to convey information to you as councillors and council staff, and to take that information back. two comments lead from that, which is one, the example of the place down the road here, thinking about it, is that the house is 1.4 metres above the ground and more, but the swale outside doesn't work, it floods, and the road on the way out flooded last time round. It's exactly the scenario you're talking about in Seddon, Sandra, and Shona, you're talking about issues about swales and Pegasus. Does council, Philip and Sandra, does council have a clear kind of strategy as to how to deal with this issue? Because clearly raising foliage is not enough. There's other things going on, and you don't want to have the issues you've got going on here at Wakakupa with Swindles Road and whatnot. It does, and I understand that council's got some limitations on power and rights and such like, but is there a plan? Is there a strategy, a broader one for the district, and to address these sort of issues?
I guess that's going to be a subject for the briefing, but I wouldn't say that I'm clear on that, because the legislation, as Simon has outlined, is it gets into an area about. My understanding is no, to say that it has a solution for it, but in fact the transparency of all the information that the council's got and available to anyone who wants to build in a hazard area is there, and then it's over to the person who is contemplating that action. I mean, you've given instances of people who are building in an area that will be inundated at some point by sea level change, and they're building a foundation of 1.4 metres. Well, how in hell are they going to get out if it's flooded up to 1.4 metres? They are marooned, and who knows the circumstances in which that will happen, and what risks other people will have to take to rescue people in those situations. So, I mean, hello. I mean, I'm saying, to my mind, the council or some authorities got to say no to this. And I don't think, as far as my understanding of the legislation, and Simon can clearly clarify that move from just providing the information, and if the landowner is across the information, understands, then the council's responsibilities are fulfilled. But I mean, the South Brighton Spit comes to mind in Christchurch City, where that's clearly a hazard area for climate change and sea level rise, and that was tried to be those warnings were tried to be included in the Christchurch District Plan, and hello, it ended up in court, didn't it? And it was tossed out. So fraught. But Simon might like to add something.
Perhaps we should just, I think the board's in agreement, so perhaps I think we should actually follow up now and actually put in the board's request for a briefing.
Yep, happy. I don't want to delay the meeting.
And I think that would be the idea. Mark, do you have anything to update us on?
No, not really. I went on the Zoom meeting about the chlorine, and I just read the email about, I don't know when that finally gets flushed. I'm not sure if someone can tell me that, but
Woodend, they were hoping about a week and a half. Can't remember quite when that week and a half is up, but it must be getting close, so fingers crossed it has worked.
Okay. And I had a meeting at Gladstone Park with Ed Sargentson. There's quite a lot of flooding down there, and the water just didn't go away, which it normally does. So it actually has killed quite an area of the grass in the playing area. So I'm not quite sure what they've basically closed those grounds off, which may mean if there's further flooding that they won't be able to use their number 2 ground for the rugby season. So which is a bit of a worry. And there might be some quite big remedial work there. But the ground's quite sunken, and I don't know why it's sunk. It's quite odd. And also had something which I hadn't followed. I'm trying to follow up or find out more information, but some Woodend Beach residents are saying that the sewer overflowed, which they think has possibly contaminated some wells. And they'd gone to the council and asked about testing it, and the council, well, you'll have to pay and get it tested yourself. But I don't know. That's about as much as I do. I don't know the details about whether sewer actually did or not, but in what we're talking about tonight, it possibly did. I don't know. And we also had our first Community Association meeting last Monday night, which was by Zoom. It was a fairly quiet meeting, and we didn't really have a lot of actions out of it. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, well, I think we do ask for a briefing on drainage, flooding, and so we can add in, I mean, now Gladstone Park is obviously something that should be included as well. Woodend Beach, good question. Yep.
I know I think I mentioned at the last meeting, because it's just not long after flooding. I did see a whole lot of couches, trucks going down there when that was happening, but I didn't know whether that was for sewer or for water. But it's a worry if the sewer overflowed, but because they are all their own wells down there. So yeah, I don't know.
Can I say something? When I was walking down through Woodend Beach, it was through the tracks and that. I've never seen so much water lying around and quite deep. I even walked through one. I thought was I had a couple of cocksfoot, and I sunk up to my ankles. So you know, the ovals in Woodend Beach are like a wetland. They're incredible. I was telling Greg Burns perhaps they should make them into wetlands.
It looks like we've dropped Shona again. Here she's back.
Could you hear me?
Sorry, apologies, everyone. I'm having major computer problems tonight. That's the third time I have been kicked out. So apologies. I'm not sure what's happening. It's the first time it's ever happened. That is not good. So Woodend Beach, that is a concern though, if there is a concern around wells. There was a company that was doing private testing, but I can't think who it is. I'll try and find out for you, Mark.
I have told, I mean, I say to anyone, do a snap send and solve it. It doesn't matter what it's for. So that's what, if they have, that may have been fed through.
Yeah.
But it was on the Woodend Beach, some Facebook page, but it never had the lady's name, and I couldn't contact her. Then I asked someone else to find out for me, who never got back to me. But that's so I mean, it may or may not have happened, but I think out of all the asking for this flooding or feedback on it, or someone to come to our meeting, that will be very helpful.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Simon.
The utilities folks keep a running list of providers of those testing services. So absolutely do the snap send solve, and they will get contacted with details as to who can provide that service to them.
Hill's laboratory is one of the go-tos in Christchurch. You need a certified testing laboratory.
Yeah.
And Hills does a lot of council work.
Can't be pushing one only though, Sandra.
No, indeed.
We've got Andrea who's moved for a recommendation for a briefing. Can we have somebody to second? Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
And Shona looks like she's stuck again. So all those in favour?
Aye.
Great.
Shona's frozen.
Yeah, so do you mind if I just continue on? You've got the consultation project on the draft annual plan, which we'll be having a meeting on just now. E-scooters, which is ongoing, and migrant experiences, which is there if you're interested to have a look at. Board funding, you've got your balances there and all looks about right. I've got a request for funding coming to the next meeting. But because of COVID, we haven't actually, because of all the events being cancelled, your balance is quite high. So you've only got 2 more months to spend it. So please encourage people to put in funding applications. Questions, understanding audits, there's nothing. Urgent general business, nothing. And Shona seems to have departed for the time being. So I will close the meeting and we can go into, yep.
Excuse me, Kay, before you close, are you able to confirm whether the board discretionary grant balance can be carried forward if we don't spend it all?
They usually do allow you to carry it forward. However, a lot of the boards have got quite large balances. So I don't know if maybe the council may opt to just bring the balances back up to what the normal funding balance is. That will be a decision that the council takes at a later stage, I would imagine.
Thank you.
Right. So if everybody is happy, I'll close the meeting now at 6:50 and we can move into the workshop. Thank you very much. Tia, can you do your cancelling? Thank you.